So here, if you want to process the data through the queue, what are the steps to be followed? Okay, so first thing, take an action stage. Okay, so we are supposed to process the data to the queue. For that reason, we are going to add the data to the queue. Okay, what queues? Add the data to the queue. Before we add the data to the queue, we are supposed to create the queue first, because we need to mention to which queue we are supposed to add the data. Okay, so how are we going to create the queue and where are we going to create the queue? We go to System tab in BluePrism. In BluePrism main window, we will go to navigate to System tab in BluePrism main window. In the System tab, we will be able to see work queues under workflow. Go to this workflow, okay, and then we are going to create queue here. So how are you going to create the queue? Here you will be having a new button. You can add a new queue here. Number data queue. I'm going to name it as number data queue. Okay, this is the place where you can create the queue. All of you who are in front of your systems, you can come to System tab. Please navigate to System tab in your BluePrism main window. Whoever is in front of your system and able to access BluePrism, please navigate to System tab in the BluePrism main window. And go to work queues under workflow. Create a new queue, number data queue. What is the queue name? Number data queue. It's up to you. If you want to give same name, you can give same name, or else if you want to give a new name, you can give a new name here. Okay. So once you provide the name in the name field, click on button apply to the right side bottom corner. Click on apply. Now the queue is created. You can see this queue in control room. Go to control room. Please navigate to control room. You can see the queue here in the control room, number data queue. Initially that this doesn't contain any data. This doesn't contain any data. Now we are going to load the data into the queue. How are we going to load the data into the queue? Come back to the process in which you are planning to use the queue. Take a data item. Name it as queue name and provide the value here, our name of the queue, whatever the queue that we have created, provide that name of the queue here. So this will be our queue name. Sorry, text data type, and pass the value. It should be text data type. It is a text, right? Name is text. Pass the value. Click OK. Now open add to queue stage. Pass the queue name value into queue name field. So this is the queue name. It is asking to pass the queue name. Here we are going to pass the name of the queue. We are storing the name of the queue in data item. That's the reason I'm using that data item here. Collection. This is the collection in which we have the data, our input data. I am loading this into the queue. drag and drop your collection. What are the collection that you are expecting to be loaded into the queue? Please drag and drop into the data field here. This is the data field, input data, and pass the value input data collection into the data. Now this whole collection will be loaded into the queue, whatever the name that you are going to mention. Since we are not getting the data from the Excel file, we don't have the stages related to getting the data from the Excel file. Okay, so we have defined the collection directly here, and we have put our values in the, we have defined our values in the initial values tab, and that is the reason we don't have get Excel data action stage here. Okay, we are not going to get the data from the Excel file, but you are supposed to assume that this data is coming from Excel. Okay, just assume you are getting this data from Excel. Okay, now we are going to load the data into the queue. Now we are going to load the data into the queue. Let me put a breakpoint over here. Let me start the flow. Initially the data will be we don't have any records, right? Previously, after running the solution, you can see queue is loaded with data. Queue is loaded with data, right? Now initial status of all the records in the queue will be pending. So hope every one of you are able to do it till here. Check if you got the data in your queue. Go to control room, check the queue, and see if you have got the data here. So once the data is available here, now we are supposed to process this data. And if you see, you will not come to know which record belongs to which item. Okay. So for that reason, what we do, let us come back to our collection here. Here in this input collection, since this is number values, we can't say number values will be unique all the time. So what I do, I will add one more field here. Okay, name it as serial number. Okay, I'm just adding this one more field, naming it as serial number. Just hold on, let me remove it here. Let me add it above this. Let us make it as number 1. Serial number, and this is number 1. Let me clear it. Serial number, number 1, number 2, result, one, first record, second record, third record, fourth record, fifth record. Numbers to be processed. And we are supposed to store the result. Okay, so this is the input data. Now Now what I do, I'm going to clear this data here. Select all, because I don't know what is the, which record belongs to which item in my collection. I can't compare here because we are able to add the data to the queue, but in the queue it will encrypt the data. It will not show you the data here. Okay, because sometimes you might be adding some customer data also to the queue, like customer personal number, customer ID, customer account numbers. When you are working in a banking domain, you might come across the sensitive data. That data, right, we are not supposed to show in the queue. So that is the reason we have a feature like the data will be added, but you can't see the data in the queue. Data will be added, but you won't be able to see the data. But when you try to get the item from the queue, then you will be able to get the data from the queue. Okay, that is one of the added advantage with the queues. So for that reason, you guys also can delete this queue and update your collection by adding a serial number here. Please update your collection by adding a serial number here. So right click on the pending items in the queue, select all, and then mark all the cases as exception, all the pending items as exception, and click OK. They will move to exception, then only you'll be able to delete the cases from the queue. Now right click on that, select all, and then delete worked cases from the queue. Delete the items from the queue. Now once again we will load the data into the queue, but while loading the data into the queue, now I'm going to mention the serial number as the key field. Now I'm going to mention the serial number as the key field. Where I'm going to mention it, I'm going to system tab. In the system tab we have created the queue, right? So this is the place where we are going to mention it as key field. Under key name, let us pass the serial number. Click on apply. Go back to the queue. Go back to the process. Sorry. Come back to the process, everyone. Now once you are back to the process, so hope everyone have defined the collection in this way. Values can be anything. It's up to you. You can define any number. It's not mandatory that it should be same. Please define any number here. These are the serial numbers. This is the serial number column, and please define your numbers here. Now we will add this data into the queue. So run it. You can place a breakpoint at the loop start. You can place a breakpoint at the loop start and start running the process. Now go back to your queue and check if you have got the data in the queue. In control room, select our queue, number data queue. Now you can see pending items in the queue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many items we have? 5 items. All 5 items are in pending status in the queue. Now we are going to process the data from the queue. To process the data from the queue, we require some more actions in our process. The next action is going to be get next item. It also comes under work queues. Now we are going to utilize get next item here. Get next item. Drag and drop an action stage. Go to the properties of the action stage. Choose work queues. Under that, choose the action get next item. I have already told you the advantages of get next item. You can read, you can go through these advantages of get next item once. Okay, now come back to your process. Pass the queue name here. Everyone pass the queue name here. And we are going to get item ID and item data as outputs. I'm going to give a name it as item data. From get next item, we are going to get two outputs, item ID and item data. When an item is picked up from the queue, we will be getting the ID of that item, and then we'll be getting the data from that item. Add the stage here, link the stages. Okay. Now we are going to get the next item. So I'm going to set this as the next stage, because only after getting the item, we are supposed to process the record. Okay. So I'm going to right click on this and set this as my next stage. Hope everyone are following me. When I execute this stage, you can see we got the values into this item data collection, and we got the value into item ID, data item. So now we are going to get the first record here. You can see the serial number 1 is available in the item data, right? Come back to your queue once and check if that record is in locked state or not. So initial status of all the records will be pending, and then it will automatically move into lock status when get next item picks up a record from the queue. After getting the next item, now we are going to start the loop here. If we start the loop here, what is going to happen, and on which collection we are supposed to start the loop? Now our data is in item data collection. See, where is our data? Data is in item data collection. Since we are processing the data from queue, we do not require this loop stage, because the data present in this collection is now loaded inside the queue. We don't need this loop stage. So I'm going to delete this loop stage here. Okay, I have deleted the loop stage. Now how are we going to process the data? Take a decision stage, check if item ID is available or not. Check if there is value inside the item ID. If item ID is not null, item ID exists. What am I doing in this decision stage? I'm trying to check if item ID exists. If item ID is available, then I will perform the division. Else I am going to end the flow. Everyone completed till here? Sorry, Sam, what is your question? Please unmute yourself. Could you please speak out, Sam? What is your question? I did not understand what you have written in here.
How we add to that item data collection.
Sam, we are not adding anything to the item data collection here. Guys, please observe here. We are not adding anything here. Get next item is the action. Once we execute this one, see here we are passing the, read the name. What do you mean by this? What is the meaning of get next item? When I say get next item, what is the meaning of that? Get the next item, right? Get the next item. Bring the item from the where? From where? From the queue. We are passing the queue. Now it is bringing the item, and the data, where are we storing? We are just storing it in the collection. I'm not adding here. Get next item is getting the data and it is storing in this collection. And I explained about get next item. Get next item will get only pending records and one record at a time from the queue. How many records will get? One record at a time from the queue. While getting the data, it follows first in first out concept. Okay, and after picking up the data from queue, it will automatically log the item in the queue. So that is the feature of BluePrism. That is how it is going to work. Okay, this is a tool. These are the features. Okay, you need to understand how to utilize these actions. Is that clear, Sam? You want me to tell it once again?
It's clear, sir. I got it.
So what are we doing here? Hope you understood. What are we doing here, Sam? Could you please explain?
Yes, sir. At first, we are adding the data into the queue and then getting that data one by one from the queue.
So first we are adding the whole data into the queue, right? Now
Yeah.
we are supposed to process each record. So when you use loop also, what is going to happen? Even
It
in the loop,
iterates.
it iterates to for each record only, right? It will not
Yeah.
it will not finish all the records at a time. We are going to iterate through each record. Same way, if you want to iterate through the records present inside the queue, what we do here? We use get next item, and then we use a decision stage here, so that every time this stage gets executed, so here you no need to write for each, or you no need to write a loop stage, you no need to use loop stage also. Okay, this get next item is itself is capable of bringing one item at a time. Okay, the stage itself is capable of getting one record from the queue at a time. You no need to define a loop stage also here. Got my point? Since
Yes,
our
sir.
data at the queue, we are going to use the action related to the queue, and the appropriate action will be get next item. Okay, Sam?
Yes, sir.
Everyone understood this? How are we getting the data from the queue? We are just storing it in a collection here. Why we are using this collection? So if you execute this, and if you don't provide this, right, what is going to happen? See, without this, without this, where are you going to see the data? You will not be able to see the data, right? Yes or no? And you want to process the data through collections or through data items only. Are you able to understand my language? If you are facing issue with my language, please let me know. item data collection. Okay. Let me reset this. So now here I am going to take a decision stage here. So after finishing all 5 records, right, we will not get any data from the queue. We will not be left over with any pending items. But this get next item, if it's going to be executed, then it will bring only pending items. If there are no more pending items, this item data and item ID will be empty. Okay. For that reason, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that item ID is available or not all the time. Only when the item ID is available, then I will be able to proceed further. Okay. So for that reason, I'm going to check if item ID is available or not. If item ID is available, then I'm going to divide, and then I'm going to continue with the remaining records. That is the reason after performing division, I'm immediately going to get the next item from the queue. Okay. And once you get the item from the queue, our data will be inside this item data collection. So when you are dividing the numbers, right, you have to divide the numbers which are present in the item data collection but not in the input data collection. So everyone, please change this to item data dot number one. Item data dot number one. So requesting every one of you to please change this to item data dot number one. Okay. I mean, initially I have mentioned it as input data. Now I am changing it because I have introduced queue concept here. Okay. So, but when you know this concept and all, right, when you are building the solution along with the queues, you no need to first define this one. You can directly say item data dot number one. So to make you understand, I am using this one by one, step by step. Are we good so far? Have you designed till here, everyone? Please let me know if you have done it till here. I'm getting only 2-3 replies, that's all. If you are not going to practice, you are the one who is going to be affected. Okay, please try to practice. I'm repeating this session only for you guys. Okay, done so far? Okay, now let us execute this. Now here also, if I start from first, what is going to happen? This is going to once again add all these records into the queue here. Already we have some pending items in the queue. Let me refresh the queue. You can see there are some pending items inside the queue. If I'm going to run it once again, it is again going to add the data into the queue. Okay, but I don't want to do that. I want to process these pending records in the queue. Okay, so you might be having a doubt why this case has moved to exception, why this item is moved to exception. So previously we picked up one item, right? Get next item executed, and there is one record here in this item data collection. And I did not process the data, and or I did not move to completed status. So when I reset my flow, when I have reset my flow, it will automatically move into the exception. You can see here the exception reason will be here to the right side. You can see the exception reason column automatically set exception at cleanup. So when you reset, it will clean up all the data, okay, in this collection and all in the background. Then the locked items will be automatically moved to exception state, and the reason will be this particular record is moved to exception because of cleanup. Okay, that is the reason. Now, so before every time, right, whenever you are working on queues, every time you run your process, make sure that you are going to check for the pending items. Okay, because if the queue is already having pending items, there is no point of adding more pending items into the queue. For that reason, take one more action stage, choose internal business object work queues, from which we are going to get the pending items count. So here we are going to choose the action get pending items, okay. Pass the queue name here, from which queue we are going to get the pending items. Pass the pending item, queue name, and we are going to get the output from this collection. All the pending items will be stored in this collection. What are you going to get in this collection? In this collection, you will just get the item IDs alone. You won't get the data, you will just get the item IDs. Okay. Now, I'm going to check if there are pending items in the queue or not by using this data present inside the collection. So first I'm going to execute this, then it will give me the pending items list, and after getting that records in this collection, then I'm going to count how many rows are available in this collection. Because I want to get the count right, I don't have direct action to find how many rows are available. So that is the reason, I can't get the count of pending records directly from this action. So this, when we execute this action, we are going to get the pending items in the collection. And now we are going to take a new action under internal business objects collections. We have an action called count rows. We pass the name of the collection. Here, pending items. In this collection, I want to find how many rows are available. So here it is going to give me the output as count. Okay, pending item count. I am creating a data item here, pending item count. Now this will be my data item in which I am going to get how many pending records available in the queue. How am I doing that? First, I am getting the pending items into a collection, and then I'm going to find out how many records are there in that collection. Okay, then I will take a decision stage, open the decision stage, drag and drop this pending item count into the expression field, try to check if it is greater than 0 or not. Items available. Okay, if it is greater than 0, I will directly start getting that next item. Okay, and then proceed further, else I am going to add the data to the queue. Please follow these steps, everyone. I want everyone to implement this. Let me use an anchor so that the design will be easy to understand. Here also let me use an anchor. So now what are we going to do? If there are any pending items inside the queue, first I am going to check the pending item count by using these two actions here. I will be getting the count of the pending items. Then I'm going to check if there are items available. Okay, how am I going to check? Pending item count is greater than 0 or not. Only when it is greater than 0, I'll directly go ahead and get the next item. Okay, else what I will do, then only I will be adding the data into the queue. Otherwise, if I keep active queue stage first, what is going to happen? Whenever I run the process, right, even though there are pending items, it will keep adding the same items again and again. Okay, for that reason, first we are going to check for the pending items. When there are no pending items available, then only we are going to load the data into the queue, and then we will start proceeding further. Any questions? Please let me know. We'll go slowly, no problem. I want every one of you to understand this queue concept. It is very important concept, guys. In every process, we will be using this queue concept. So please let me know if you have understood. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you want me to repeat also, it's fine. I will repeat it. I mean, since it is online session, I won't be able to see each and every one of your screen right away. But please try to let me know. Have you implemented so far, everyone? Shall we continue further? So, to get the pending items, we are just going to utilize queue name alone. We no need to pass any other values here. Okay, just pass the pending item, just pass the queue name alone. Get pending items, queue name, and outputs. We are going to get the outputs. Output will be, it will bring all the pending items from the queue. Whatever the record is present in pending status, it will bring you all the records in the from the queue. Okay, see now I'm going to execute step by step. Get pending items. Since there are pending items, how many items we have inside the queue which are in pending status? 4 items inside the queue are in pending status. 1 2 3 4. All these 4 items, now you can see the item output here after executing get pending items from so and so queue, from number data queue. So it is giving us the output. What is the output we are getting? We are getting the output inside this pending items collection. So if you see how many records we have, 4 records. And what are all the fields we are getting as output? Only item IDs. Only item IDs. We are not going to get the data here. We are not going to get the data here. Only item IDs. Okay. Now we are going to count the rows. How many records are available here? By passing the input collection name, and we are going to get the count by using the action count rows. Count rows is the action which we are going to perform on pending items collection. This is the collection. On this collection, I'm going to count the rows. Now how many records I got? 4. And obviously we are going to check here if the pending item count is greater than 0 or not. And obviously it is going to take S path because 4 is greater than 0. Going to S path. Now we will start proceeding with the get next item. Now get next item is going to execute, and it is going to get the data from the queue. And go to the queue and see, you can see the second record now will be moved to locked state. Second record is now in locked status. come back to the process. Here I am going to check if there is value inside the item ID or not, because if there are no pending items inside the queue, if all the pending items are completed inside the queue, right, when you execute get next item, it will give you empty values in item data and item ID. So to make sure we have the data, we are going to check if item ID is not equal to null. What is the condition I have written here? Item ID not equal to null. When it is not equal to null, which means there is data. When it is not equal to null, then we will perform the division. If it is equal to null, there is no need of performing the division, just go ahead and end it. Okay, and while performing the division, we supposed to store it in the item data collection. Storing also, we are supposed to do it in the item data collection. Now execute. It is taking S path. Now execute this record. So the data present in the item data collection, see, now it is able to divide these two numbers. Number 1 is divided with number 2, and here is the result. Similarly, you can continue with the remaining records. Now get next item. When get next item gets executed, you can see the previous value will be overwritten with the new value. So what are we supposed to do? Every time when we get the next item and perform this calculation, after performing this calculation, we will store the data present in this collection into a new collection. We will take a new collection and then we'll store the data present in this item data collection into a new collection. Okay. Why are we doing that? Because whenever you get the next item, right, the data which is present in this item data collection will be overwritten. Okay, the previous record will be lost. Everyone have implemented till here and you are able to run the flow. Hope you are following me. I'm doing step by step. Now I'll open the collection here and I will define the fields. Serial number, number 1, number 2, number 3, number data type, number data type, number data type, and this is also number data type. We no need to define any initial and current values here. Name it as output data. Now what we do, the data present in this item data collection, now we are planning to allocate it into output data collection, because every time when we execute this get next item, the previous record will be lost in the item data collection. For that reason, we are going to take a multi-calculation stage. Open the multi-calculation stage. Item data dot serial number, item data dot number 1, item data dot number 2, item data dot result. We are going to store them in output. Serial number, number 1, number 2, sorry, I have given the wrong name here, and output data, it should be result. Guys, please correct me if I'm doing such mistakes. Okay, you can correct me, no problem. Go to the multi calculation stage. Now here it should be output data dot result. Set data. Okay, I'm setting the data here. So when you set the data to, when you're planning to set the data to this collection, right? Since the collection is empty, make sure that you are adding an empty row to the collection. So open the action here, choose collections, internal business object collection, and add a row. Add row is, it is going to add a row to the collection. Which is the collection? Output data is the collection. Now pass the name of the collection here. Okay. Divide and then add a row. Okay. And then set the data and then go ahead and get the next item. Okay. Clear? So before we run this flow, right, let us reset the flow, follow the steps, come back to your queue. Let us remove all the records from the queue. I'm going to clean the queue so that you will not get confused. Come back to the process. Now start doing step by step. Set as next stage. While doing step by step, please check each and every inputs and outputs from each stage. Okay. So first thing, get pending items from the queue. Do you have any pending items in the queue? No pending items in the queue. So what will be our result? Are we going to get any records in the pending items collection? Are we going to get any records in the pending items collection? No, right? Execute. No records available. Now I am going to count the rows. Our value is 0, right? Now what is that we are checking here? Check if pending item count is greater than 0 or not. Is 0 greater than 0? No. So we are going to take no path. And then we are going to add the data into the queue. Now we are going to load the data into the queue. Okay. Now loading the data into the queue. We have loaded the data into the queue. So if you see here in the queue, refresh the queue and see if you have got the data here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 records. Okay. Come back to the process. Now, once the data is loaded to the queue, we are supposed to get each and every item from the queue and process the data. For that, we are going to use get next item. When you execute get next item, the data will be available in item data collection and you will get item ID. See, we got the item ID and here is the item data. Which record it has picked up? First record. Okay. Now we are going to divide number 1 with number 2 for the first record. After division, we are storing the value in the same collection, which is item data collection. Now from here, we are going to allocate the data to this output data collection. From one collection, we are moving the data to another collection. Before moving the data to another collection, we are adding an empty row here. You can see the row is empty by using action add row. Add row will help you to add empty row to the collection. After adding the we're going to execute. So the data now which is present in the item data collection will be moved to output data. You can see now the data is available. And once we execute this get next item, you can see this data will be lost and you will get the second record here. This is the first record, right? Now we execute the second record, we are going to get the second record. Get next item, you want to execute this get next item, you can see second row. Okay, now we are going to check if item ID is available or not. Same thing for each and every record. Once the item ID is available, then we are going to continue. We have divided the number 1 with number 2 for the second record. Now we are going to add an empty row and set the data present in item data to this empty row. Now if you see here, a new row is added, row 2 of 2, row 2 of 2. Open that, and in the current values you can see an empty row is available. To this empty row, the data will be added from the item data collection. And once you open this collection after executing that multi-calculation stage, you can see we have the data for the second record also. Okay, so this is how we are going to work on the queues. Now let us continue with the next record. Third record is completed. Fourth record is also completed. Now we got the fifth record. Now we have processed the fifth record also. Now go back to your collection, control room, refresh your queue. No more pending items here. No more pending items here. If there are no more pending items and if you still try to execute this get next item, you can see item data and item ID are empty. So after processing all the records, if you don't use this condition, it will directly try to divide number 1 with number 2. Since the values are empty here, again it will throw an error. To avoid that, I'm going to check if item ID contains value or not. If item ID contains value, we will proceed further, else we are going to end the flow. And how many of you have implemented till here? If not, I'll give you 10 minutes time. Please go ahead and implement it. Now, in the queue, we have seen all are in locker status, right? Once you reset this flow now, if you don't move the processed records to completed status, automatically all the records will go to exception here. Okay. As I explained yesterday, BluePrism will not come to know when to mark a record as completed. We are supposed to mark a record as completed in the queue as per our requirement. So how can we mark a record as completed? That is the place where we are going to use one more action stage. Open the action stage. Choose internal business object work queues and then mark the record as completed. Pass the data item. So we are supposed to mention which item to be marked as completed. There will not be any outputs for this. I'm going to move a bit here. Okay, so after performing the division and setting the data to the output, then we'll mark the record as completed. Okay, now let us once again run this flow. Pending items, no pending items because all the items are in exception now. All the items are in exception, right? Your pending items will be 0. You can see the pending count is 0. We are now loading the data to the queue. Now you can go back to the queue and verify if there are pending items. Now we have pending items. Our get next item will execute, I mean will bring only pending items. It will not bother about the items which are in completed or in exception status. Okay, get next item executed. Check the item data collection. Now you have first record in here. This is our first record. Continue, continue, dividing two numbers, adding a row, so that I'll set the data to this final output collection. Now we are going to mark that record as completed. On what basis we are marking the record as completed? Based on the item ID. So mark completed, we are passing item ID here. Okay. Likewise, when I continue, it will finish all the records. It will mark the record as completed. So we can go back to the queue and see 1, 2, 3 records are now moved to completed status. Okay. Now when I continue with the flow, it will go ahead and process fourth and fifth record also. Clear? Now we have done it on a simple process. Our process is to divide two numbers. Now we want to implement the same thing in a process where we are supposed to create the orders in our centricity data solution application. Will you be able to do that? I mean, some of you might have already completed, I guess. Vibish have completed. Anyone else have completed? Are you able to implement queues in this process? Centricity data solution create new order process. Only 3 members completed. That's all. Vibish, Satya, and Thiru. Only 3 members completed. What about remaining guys? What you guys are doing? You're logging in and sitting quiet. Please reply now. Please guys, please reply. Say yes or no, you have completed, sir. I will have to work on this, or I need some time. I did not understand. Say something. So by the end of next week, not this week, next week, you will be having assessment. If you fail in that, don't come to me, okay? You will be having assessments for sure. And only if you clear the assessment, you will be going to the next level. Hope you know that, right? Anyway, I'm going to repeat this. Let me repeat this for Q concept again on centricity data solution process. Reset. I'm going to remove the breakpoints here. I don't know how many of you have done it along with me. Only few have completed. Yeah. So here we are going to get the data from the Excel file. After getting the data from the Excel file, then I'm going to let the data to the queue. So I'm going to start here. So our first step is I'm going to implement the same flow here, but I'm going to do it in a different page here. I'm going to take a separate page, load to queue, load to queue. Okay. In this, I will take an action stage. As instead of defining everything in a single main page, I'm doing it in different page, and I will refer this page to the main page. For queue, now add the data to the queue. How are you going to add the data to the queue? Drag and drop the collection and mention the name of the queue. So let us use this queue. I'm going to use this Centrix data solution queue. Let me select all, remove this queue. I'm going to delete all the records from the queue. Centrix data solution underscore queue is the queue name. So go to the main page, take a data item, open the data item, queue name, text data type, mention the name of the queue, Centrix data solution queue, Centrix data solution underscore queue. Okay. Expose this data item to other pages. Drag and drop the queue name into queue name field here. This is how we are going to add the data to the queue. Similarly, let us add one more page. Define a page to get pending count. So we know how can we get the pending item count. Take an action stage, open the action stage. Where is the solution? Sorry. Choose internal business object work queues. Inside that, choose the action get pending items. Pass the queue name. Output is we are going to get the pending count. See, we have created the collection directly by clicking on this button. I'm able to create this collection pending count, pending items. This will be the collection in which we are going to get all the pending records. After this, we are supposed to count number of records present in that collection, because directly we are not getting the number of records, we are just getting the collection as output, and from that collection I am going to count number of rows available in that collection. So I am using internal business object collections, and I'm using count rows here, and I'm going to count the rows present in the pending items collection. Pending items, go to the output. Now store the count in pending item count. This is the data item. Okay. Now link this stage here. Here. Now expose this data item so that we can utilize it in the main page. Okay, now come back to the main page. Now we are going to refer two pages here. First take a page stage and refer get pending item count, and take one more page and refer load data to queue. So first thing is we are supposed to execute but get pending items. Okay, so once we get the pending item count, if there are pending items, then what we will do, we will directly start the application. So now take a decision stage, open the decision stage, pending item count, drag and drop the data item pending item count, check if it is greater than 0. Check pending items in queue, and we are going to check pending items in queue. If there are pending items, I'll directly start the application. If there are no pending items, then I will get the data from the Excel. Then I'm going to load the data to the queue and then continue with the startup of the application and creation of the orders in the application. Okay, get pending items, check if there are pending items. If there are pending items, directly start the application and proceed with the creation of the orders on that. Else, go ahead and get the data from the Excel file, load the data to the queue, and then proceed further. Now, once we load the data into the queue, we are supposed to process data from the queue. So we no more need this loop stage here. I'm going to delete the loop stage. I'm going to take get next item. I'm going to take an action stage. Select get next item under work queues. Drag and drop the queue name. Drag and drop the queue name and name it as item data collection. Sorry, it is add to queue now. Get next item. Choose get next item queue name, and now we are going to get item ID as output, and we are going to get item data also output. For each item there will be data stored in this record in the queue. You won't be able to see the records basically. So here if you see the data, it will not be visible. Each record will be having its values. Okay, like value like number 1, number 2 in the previous scenario. We won't be able to see the data. So now when you use get next item only, you will be able to get the data as output, and we are going to store it in item data collection. Sorry, the spelling is wrong. Let me correct it. Open this item data, ITEM, item data. Okay, now go back to get next item, go to outputs, remove this, drag and drop item data. Okay, so this is the collection in which we are going to get the data. And once we get the data, we also need to make sure if the data is available in the collection or not. And how are we going to make sure? If there is data, for sure we'll be getting the item ID also. So basing on item ID, I am going to check if item ID is not equal to null or not equal to null. Just double quotes, which is null. Okay, item exists. If item exists, only then I will go ahead and create the order. Only then I will go ahead and create the order. And after creation of the order, where are we going to store the reference number? And initially we were using collection here, right? Instead of get next item, initially we were using collection. Which collection? Product data. And for that reason, while creating the order, when we enter the details, we are passing the data from the product data collection. But now, from which collection we are processing the data? We are processing the data from item data collection. Now expose that item data collection first. Expose the item data collection first. Copy the name of this. Come back to the create new order. So while entering the data, while passing the data to the object also, make sure you are passing it from item data collection only. Okay, make sure you are passing it through the item data collection. Now come back to the main page. Okay, and one more point here, where you pass the input. You pass the input from item data collection, and output also store it in the item data collection. Okay, now go back to the main page. Now create the take a multi-calculation stage and an action stage and a collection. Why are we taking these stages? After creating the orders from item data collection, we are supposed to assign the data to the new collection, that is our reference number data. Okay, I'm going to add the fields here. Customer account number, product code, unit price, quantity, priority order, text, 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 priority order as flag. Add one more data type, name it as reference number. Okay, now to allocate the data in this collection, what we do, go to multi-calculation stage. Now we will be having the values available in item data collection. Since item data collection is a undefined collection, I'm going to store it in, we are supposed to store it in reference number data, right? So I'm going to store it in reference number data, unit price, customer account number, product code, unit price, quantity, priority order, and reference number. Add one more reference number. So what I'm going to do here is, observe this, item data dot customer account number. Okay, similarly item data dot product code. Similarly item data dot unit price. Item data dot quantity, item data dot priority order, and then we have item data dot reference number. Okay, clear? Now click OK. Now we are going to set the data, and before we set the data we have to make sure that, what are we supposed to make sure? There is an empty row in the collection, yes or no? You have to make sure that there is an empty row in the collection. So how are we going to make sure? By taking a new action stage, choose internal business objects collection, make sure we are going to add an empty row to this collection. What is the collection? Reference number data. Reference number data is your collection to which we are going to add an empty row. Only when there is an empty row, we will be able to set the data to the output. And after setting that, we are going to mark the record as completed, because BluePrism doesn't know when to mark the record as completed. So that is the reason we are going to utilize our internal business object work use, where we have the action called mark completed. To that I am going to say, hey, go ahead and mark this specific item ID as completed. And then we are going to continue further. So when there is no item ID exists, now we are going to update the reference number. So while updating the reference number, so where are we storing our data reference number? In the reference number data. Now while updating the reference number in the workbook file, sorry, in write collection, we are going to use our, instead of product data, we are going to use reference number data collection. It is not available there because I did not expose this collection. Go back here, update reference number to Excel, write collection. Now drag and drop your collection here, reference number collection. Okay, come back to the main page. Here what are we doing? Set data to reference number, set data to reference number collection. We are setting the data to reference number collection. Clear? This is the flow. Now let us go ahead and start. I will show a couple of records by executing step by step. Observe carefully. If you have any questions, you can let me know. We are going to get the pending items first. You can see where is our pending item collection. I think it is to the right side. No, it is in here. Yeah. Pending items. No pending items, and the count will be 0. You can see the count is 0 in the main page. Now come back. Now when you execute, it went to no path. Key name we have not. Key name is already mentioned in the queue. Sam. Hey, Sam asked a question whether we have entered key name or not. In system tab, go to the work queues. What is the queue name? Centric data solution queue. This is the queue we are utilizing, and we are mentioned as key name as customer account number. Okay. Key name is already available here. We are using the same queue which we have created yesterday. We did not create a new queue here. Okay, Sam. We are utilizing the same queue. Okay. Yeah. Come back to our process now. Now we are going to get the data from the Excel file. Once we get the data from the Excel file, data will be available in the product data collection. From product data collection, we are going to load the data into the queue. This is the product data collection. Now we are going to load this into the queue. See how we are going to load the data to the queue. Come to the control room, select our queue. You can see the queue will be empty initially. Same steps what we have done previously, empty queue, and load the data to the queue. All the 20 records will now be loaded to the queue. 20 records. Okay, so this is our data. Okay, and then we are going to continue. We are going to start the application. Start in the sense like launch and log in into the application. So after launching and logging in into the application, now we are going to click on orders, which will take us to the order menu page where we can choose the option. Okay, so once we are in this page, from this step we are supposed to iterate on all the records, right? So that is the reason after coming to this page we are using get next item. After coming to this page only we are supposed to use get next item. You know why, right? As per our requirement, from here we are supposed to repeat all the steps. So we first create the dummy record. So let's say for example I'll enter 1, go here and enter some data, and you need to do it based on the application functionality. Okay, so once you get the reference number and once you read the reference number, click on OK. See, you are navigating back to the same page. So that is the reason from here we are supposed to get the next item. Okay, so now I am going to get the next item. We can see that record will be moved to locked status once the item is picked up by the get next item action in the process. And now we are going to check if item ID is available or not. You can see item ID is, you can see item ID data item have the value. This data item is having the value, so it will take S path. Now we are going to create the order here. It will come here, it will enter the data of the first record from the first record. Now it is going to submit, it will read the reference number, and now it is coming back to the next stage. Now we have the first record data along with the reference number in this item data collection. Okay, when you got next item, when you executed get next item, the data is stored in this collection. So from this collection we are updating it to the reference number data collection by adding an empty row to this. Now first we need to add an empty row. There is an empty row. Now we are going to push the data from this collection to this collection using multi-calculation stage. Now you can see there is data in this reference number data collection. Continue, and after setting the data we are going to mark the record as completed. Once the record is marked as completed, you can see the status inside the queue will be updated to completed. You can see this case is completed. This case was successfully completed on so and so date and so time. Okay, now once that is completed, you can see where our application is navigated back to. Our application is again back in the same page where order menu page. Now you will get the next item and you will be able to create the order. Get next item, we got the new item here. See, observe this data item also, it keeps updating. Now it is going to create the new order. Order is created. You can see still our item will be in locked status only until and unless we are going to mark it as completed. Till that time it will be in locked status. After executing mark completed, now go to your queue and check the queue. Now you can see the record is now moved to completed status. Okay, Now if I continue, it is going to process all the remaining records in the queue. Okay, so when I say continue, it will continue on the remaining records in the queue. So while processing the remaining records, right, there might be chances of exceptions because some records may not have data in customer account number column or may not have data in product code column. Sometimes the data might be missing in some of the columns, right? So in that scenario, what we do here is we are supposed to do the exception handling so that it will continue with the remaining records. Okay. So now we are going to encounter in one of the record, we don't have product code. For one of the record, we don't have product code value. Now you can see the flow will stop at that specific point. After that, we are supposed to handle the exceptions here. So to handle the exceptions, first of all, we need to understand exception handling concept. Now I'm going to, in the afternoon session, I'm going to explain exception handling concept by taking some simple examples, and then we are going to implement that in this centric data solution process. Okay. Let me increase the speed a bit. See, for this record, we ran into validation error. Okay. So how many records we have completed in the queue? In the queue, we are able to finish all these records. Let me select these records till here. How many? How many we have selected? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13th record ran into issue. 13th record ran into an issue. Okay. This 13th record, because the product code value is empty for that and it has thrown an error here. See, it has thrown an error here. Yes or no? Okay. Now today afternoon we are going to handle exceptions in this application and we are going to resolve this. Okay. Now whenever we come across any such errors, right, you are not supposed to update the data and rerun it. Okay, because those are something related to business people. Business people will be giving you this data. Whenever you get an error, you have to read this validation error message. Okay, read this validation error message, update that message, into your BluePrism queue under exception reason column and exception reason column. Okay, so we are supposed to update that message in the exception reason column. The reason should be available here in the exception reason column of BluePrism work queue. That is how we are going to handle the exceptions. Okay.